Good afternoon, everybody. We are running a little bit late, but we're still going to try actually to use our 25 minutes to cover the Serbian digital ecosystem, and the working title of the panel is Vision versus Reality. And we've got both, I believe, in our digital ecosystem in spades. So I would do the opposite. Usually they would say in the old ways, politically incorrect ways, would be to actually ask a lady first, but I'll actually do it completely because this is modern times. I'm going to do it the vice versa. Georgia, you are scanning the Serbian digital ecosystems from so many different angles for years now. And you really actually have a really good look at where we are at the moment from, again, various angles. So how do you see us at the moment? Is the political, legal environment in Serbia and kind of any other aspects of the Serbian society and what the government is doing conducive to the development of the Serbian ecosystem at the moment? Are there any big things that we are maybe missing that the other countries have, particularly countries from immediate surroundings, countries like us? And what do you think? Where are we at the moment?
Thanks for a question. So it's really wide question. Yeah. I would say first, let's think what we want, what is our strategy. At the beginning, are we trying to develop our market and demand side? We have high penetration, but we don't have sufficient number of transactions in digital environment. So for foreign investors, we are kind of emerging market, but not really the one that are investing a lot of money. On the other hand, we can attract some investors to come here and invest on our soil. However, there is always a problem and a question what we have to offer and what are our resources in that respect. We heard Serbia has got a talent, yeah? But what is the talent? The talent of Serbia as a state, as an economic and market system, as individual people, as an IT ecosystem. Yes, of course, we have talents at universities, we have talents somewhere around Serbia, but what these talents can create? You need much wider network of infrastructures in order to create products and export them to, for example, digital single market of EU. And for that, you need a lot of support of different actors, both business ecosystem and IT development.
And who would be, I would say, tasked for developing that system? Is that something that actually grows of its own, or is it kind of some concentrated effort? Should be some concentrated effort to get there?
There is something what was happening for last couple of decades autonomously by community. There is a highly motivated team next to the Prime Minister working on that, but there is also a lot of sectoral policies not fully coordinated, and these strategies which have been developed are just starting. So I would not say that if somebody asks me like why to come to Serbia and invest in Serbia, like you really need to find we don't have like a lot of talents we can offer. We need to find a really great connection between IT sector and some other domain knowledge, like for example in agriculture, where we can offer something.
Well, creative industries are great because they create a tide that lifts all the boats. They're basically almost, there's no in any other kind of part of economy that creative industries do not affect and actually cannot affect. And in that sense, basically they are multiplier of the efforts. But we need to, as you said, find kind of way to do a reverse transfer of knowledge. So my question for Isabel would be, at the moment, there are, with notable exceptions, we've got kind of within our academic and educational sphere, we've got institutions that actually do produce research and that kind of pump out research into the economy. But it's mostly that most of the creative industries expertise resides in business. And we need to find a way actually to push it back into the educational system. How does it work in Germany, for example? What are the instruments and the policies that actually we see that reverse transfer of knowledge?
Switch. So in Germany,
should we try this one?
Hello, we'll try this. Okay, the moderator. So in Germany, there's one thing particular. 90% of people doing their PhD will not end up in research. Very different from the Anglo-American system, where most people doing a PhD will become researchers. And I think this is an advantage, because the 90% will go into industry. In Germany, it's often discussed as a disadvantage, and there's lots of talks on, oh, let's do it the American way. But I think it's a big advantage when it comes to knowledge going back and forth, because these people will understand how university works, how research works, and they can come back being part of industry, tapping into the resources that the university provides. So that's one thing. And then the German government for 20 years or so has really been trying to push entrepreneurship. Germany is not doing so well with its entrepreneurial startup rates. The main goal of German graduates is still to become a civil servant. Which is not so ideal if you want to start up an ecosystem.
Similar.
Yeah, and I want to add that a lot of people in Germany think about transfer in terms of starting your own business. That's an important way to transfer business back and forth, but I think the often forgotten way is that researchers could sell patents, that you could develop patents and do applied research, bringing in experts from business. And that's usually done by the PhDs that have come out of the system and know how universities work.
How much do universities actually do their own business in a way that they set up their own companies, their own consulting companies? Is that happening over there?
Well, it's happening in Munich, where I'm from. So there actually, we have an organization that's devoted to starting businesses, and that's doing really well. So they have about the valuation of 1 billion, companies that are valued at 1 billion. If we had that 10 times, we would be close to other hotbeds of entrepreneurship.
So let me put it very, very bluntly. If a professor actually sets up a company, works together with the university, both get some money, right?
That depends on, that depends really. So it used to be the way that if you started a company and if you did a research project and you patented something, you got all the money. That has been changed recently because universities want to participate in any commercial success, and often this makes our life as researchers in cooperating more challenging. So I would advise, if you wanted to foster that, to not make it too bureaucratic or too legal. We researched it, what actually holds companies back on buying patents developed at universities, and the main thing was the pain points of the legal system, not that the scientists and the companies, they easily agreed on what they want to do, but then we need more entrepreneurial lawyers. Yeah, that's one conclusion from me.
That's brilliant, and I hope and I wish if some people from here, from today, actually get in touch with you and want to kind of pick up on those points and find out more about it. But speaking about the education, speaking about all the new skills that we need for this new world and this new age, data science is kind of one of the key skills that we do require. And it goes from literally marketing products to developing new products, new services, and completely new areas of economy as well. You are sitting right in the middle of that particular new skill. Data science is so sexy, I have to say, that everybody wants to be one. And do we have a system in Serbia to create data scientists? Can you find them? Can we accredit them? Are they certified? How does that work at the moment?
Okay, this is much better. We have fourth industrial revolution, so technology always fails you. Let me maybe start by highlighting what do we mean by data science, because we talk about it a lot. Let me tell you a story about a Serbian farmer. We can call him Mike. And Mike works with 5,000 hectares of land, divided over 70 plots, 70 fields. And every year, Mike is faced with the challenge, what to plant where. You know, he needs his sunflower for his oil, he needs his wheat for his animals, he needs his sugar beet for whatnot, you know, you get a point. He needs all 5 major crops. And every year he plays the same guessing game of what to plant where, and every year he's unsatisfied. Why is that? Why can't he get it right? Because the number of combinations of what to plant where on 70 fields is actually larger than the number of atoms in the solar system. So no human brain can find such a simple answer to such a complex question. How to choose the best option out of billions and billions of different options. And that is where data science comes in. Data science can provide this answer, and we do provide farmers with the exact recipe of what to plant where on 70 or whatnot fields, so to maximize profits, minimize risks, do everything he wanted to. So data science is a new tool, it's a scientific method, algorithms, computer systems that allows us to look into huge sets of data and come up with useful information and insights into the processes. And obviously data science, that's why it's so sexy, that's why it's in the middle of everything we do today, not only in agriculture, transport, economics, medicine, you name it, data science is in it, marketing, of course. So this is not a isolated case for Serbia, this holds throughout the globe. And yes, we always do lack data scientists, and yes, we always do lack IT experts, but we're working hard on creating them. You have heard this morning from the Prime Minister that even from primary schools, from 10 years old, there are huge efforts being put into creating new data scientists, all the way up to increasing university quotas throughout Serbia. We have 8 state universities, more than 8 private ones, and I believe all of them have some sort of IT or IT-related educational program.
Okay, well, specifically data science, that's one. So definitely as part of the overall IT. But do you think that we need it more kind of on a higher levels, more kind of PhD and master experts?
Well, I believe we need both, and I make a strict distinction between programmers, which are the working horses, so to put it, and the people with algorithmic knowledge, the people who are capable of solving very complex problems. And I believe that's where the creativity kicks in as well. So
it's a great segue. Thank you very much for that. I was meaning to mention because I have to say personally very, very proud that I think I've created the world's first 2 creative data scientists at Google, because actually 2 of the members of my team were going into the Google's data universe, but coming out, finding interesting human insights to tell great brand stories. So they were not kind of traditional data science of the traditional kind, they were actually storytelling data scientists, and actually worked absolutely beautifully. So as you said, it can be applied across almost anything. So we are in a good shape, or getting in a better shape regarding that.
I think we're getting in a better shape. It's a process, it takes time, but I believe, and looking at the title of this panel, vision versus reality, I believe that all of us here share the same vision of digital Serbia. Bioscience is working hard to make agriculture digital, but by joining forces between academia, research, IT sector, industry, government, I believe that we can indeed make this vision a reality.
Great. Georgia.
So I can continue now with this vision of Serbia as a place where data science projects can emerge in the future and new products based on them. But we now need to consider what is the infrastructure we need for such development. One side are talents, we need people, and the other side is we need data. And in order to be able to process data, we need to have rights over data, and we need to have clearance over that. We are trying to change our law on data protection for the last 6 years. That law will be somewhere in Parliament next week, or this week maybe, finally, what's great. However, we are not at the point where our data protection standards are really relevant for EU system. So we have a lot of problems if we want to process data here of European citizens. And we have, as a companies doing processing of personal data, like just outsourcing sector, not product owners, we have like a big comparative disadvantage. Where we talk about rights over data of machine-generated data, sensor-generated data, we don't have policies in that respect. So in order to be able to build this kind of industry, we need to develop other segment also and the regulation around it in order to be able to create products which can go to the European market.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got 2 questions, just kind of start wrapping up. 2 questions for each of you, the same questions for each of you. The first one deals with talent. The 4th Industrial Revolution requires different ways of managing talent. First of all, recognizing talent, recruiting talent, and actually managing it day by day. Isabel, how do you see that difference? How is the talent in this age different from the previous one, and how it needs to be managed differently, if at all?
Yeah, well, up to now, I don't know of a single study that could show that age would be a good predictor on the preferences that people have and how they want to work. So I don't believe very much in this talk about millennials and Gen Z. So it varies much more within a generation than between generations. What we do see, though, is that a different kind of talent with education background-wise is required. So there is a great need, since we are moving into the information age, it's the new Kondratiev cycle of our times, there's a great need for anything related to data, programming, software, AI, analysis of data, and at least in Germany, we're not producing enough talent with that regard. So I think the key for every successful company and country is to be attractive for talent from other regions if you want to play in that field.
Okay, thank you very much. Georgia, what do you think about that? Do you think that talent in this day and age needs to be managed differently?
I think that we have really bad trend going on at the moment. We have a huge acquisition by talents all around the world by huge consulting companies and big companies. We have all reasons that talents will leave Serbia at the moment, really great offers all around the LinkedIn, all around other networks, and they really have to have a strong anchor to stay here. What is that? I'm not really sure. So managing talents at the moment, not just producing them, but keeping them in Serbia, I think that should be a first priority. And for that, it's not only about changing taxes or improving education, it's much more.
Vesna, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, well, at Biosense, we work really hard to kind of reverse the brain drain and keep the young scientists in Serbia. And what we have seen is that what they need the most, it's not primarily the salary. I mean, that goes without saying, but it's the environment. It is a supportive environment, excellent, world-class research topics, good labs. So once you provide this environment and the spirit of, joint work and moving on, then they stay.
Isabel, would you like to pick up on this?
Yes, because we've seen the globalization of value chain. So we all buy internationally, globally, very much from China, from all countries in the world, but we have not yet seen the globalization of the talent pipeline flowing into the production of goods and services. So my prediction would be that that will happen, and so we have not started to tap into the talent markets in large parts of the world, in Asia, in Latin America, in Africa. And the experiment of Sebastian Thrun, who worked for Google, spoke at DLD Munich, and he opened his Kubernetes class to all people in the world. More than 200,000 people participated. Also his original Stanford GRE super class, but the best student from Stanford, when they took the final exam, was on place 300, and I think the best student was in Afghanistan without formal education. So that tells you what type of talent pools we haven't tapped in, and those companies and countries will succeed that are able to be inclusive of these talents from very different backgrounds and upbringings.
And it's a very, very good point. And when you mentioned Stanford, you reminded me that Stanford actually has managed to give academic credentials to something that we do very, very intuitively in countries like this, and particularly in Serbia. And there's a Serbian word for that, buđenje, snalaženje. Basically, they managed actually to create an academic degree in design for circumstances of extreme lack of resources. So, jugad. So basically, how to create something out of nothing. And we are living in an environment here in the region that we do not have a lot of resources, and we need to kind of find ways around it. But actually, they turned it into an academic discipline. And my heart is broken why we didn't do that. So potentially one of the things to think about as well. What I also liked is your playfulness. You've got two robots roaming the fields called Lala and Sosa, which is absolutely brilliant. So you give your people kind of permission to play as well.
Yes, I think playing is very important, but so is education. I mean, if we talk about what needs to be done here, I think investment in education is something that really pays off in the long term. If you do something wrong today, you will suffer for the next 30 years. So if we talk about what could be changed to make things evolve faster, investment into education, but also strategic thinking on all levels. Very often we see, one institution or one government going into great direction, and then, next one fails to do so. So strategic industry policies, smart specialization, scientific strategies, no matter what, they all need to be co-aligned, and then we need to stick to them.
Yeah, so holistic. Quick question, again, the second one, the same for all three of you in kind of rapid fire. Isabel, 3 things that you would recommend to the Serbian government as the 3 biggest first things to focus on?
Well, apart from the 3T, we all know from Richard Florida, tolerance, talent, and technology. So that we know makes any ecosystem thrive. I guess bureaucracy and tax rates should rather go down, and access to finance, financial markets, and focus on disruptive innovation, like the real combination of new product market combinations should go up. And since we talked so much about talent, I think it's important to keep one thing in mind, and I'll share an anecdote. I did a conference on digitalization, the construction industry, and a minister of so-and-so of Bavaria opened the conference and said, well, welcome, this must be the last industry that has not been digitally disrupted yet. And I turned around to a person sitting next to me and said, no, it's not. You know what the last industry is that hasn't been touched? Is the education industry. And we'll see, my prediction is we'll see a huge disruption of the way we educate people, because it's done the way it's been done for 1,000 years, and there's really no reason to not have individualized study programs, lifelong learning put away with one size fits all, have close integration between the jobs companies need and what you learn, and put everything that you learn on a blockchain or something similar instead of having paper documents like that. So that I would keep in mind, because
definitely a very, very big point. Thank you. Georgia, 3 quick things for the Serbian government.
So I use the first one related to data economy. So the second one would be investing more into interdisciplinary education. So our pool of IT experts is limited, but we have a lot of experts in fields of social sciences and humanities, which can be transformed into digital experts, which are really necessary for development of ecosystem and products. The third thing, really important, would be creating bigger trust on a local marketplace, bigger number of e-commerce transactions, and developing potential for testing the products on the local market before going out. And of course, what I have to say is in order to have a culture of critical thinking, of innovation and creativity, which is really necessary to develop the talents over time of changing technologies, we really need to have open space for discussion and debate. We need to have open media. We need to have a free speech all around the digital and offline environment, and we need to have a rule of law and predictability. So these are the fundamentals for any kind of development.
Thank you so much for that. And Vesna, your 3 things.
Well, I'll just give you one.
Oh,
great. But it is so complex that it actually has 303 inside. And that's what any good parent would do, create supportive environment. And that's it. Whether it's education or tax incentives on legislation that will make young researchers mobile easier or bring foreign experts here, just create supportive environment in all aspects.
1 point to rule them all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention as well. That was our panel. Vesna Crnojevic-Bengin, Đorđe Krivokapic, and Isabel Welpe. Thank you.